So here I sit, Saturday night, after working a full day of my second job. So I'm exhausted, but the house is quiet, so I figure I better do this while I can. Um, so this week's readings were Chapter 10 of Tversky, Chapter 5 of Awe, and some pages from Fountas and Pinnell. In Chapter 10 of Tversky's 2011 book, she distinguishes the difference between skills and strategies. She defines strategies as deliberate, directed attempts to control and modify the reader's efforts to decode text, understand words, and construct meanings of text. That was found on page 250. In contrast, reading skills are automatic actions that result in decoding and comprehension with speed, efficiency, and fluency, and usually occurs without awareness of the components or control involved, also found on page 250. The short version, she said, skills are automatic and strategies are deliberately applied, also found on page 250. There are 6 strategies that Tversky 2011 finds essential to children developing reading comprehension. Number 1, set a purpose for reading. Tversky 2011 says that we need to expose children to a variety of genres and then prompt them to think about why they are reading something, page 251. I know whenever I'm working with my students, I'm giving them a purpose. Either it's saying, okay, I need you to find out as much as you can about an animal, for example, and hand them a nonfiction text. And so if they have that purpose in mind, then they're not just reading it just to get enjoyment, but they're reading it for that purpose of finding that as much information, for example, about an animal as they can. Number 2, access and use prior knowledge according to Tversky's 2011. Readers access prior knowledge before, during, and after they read. That's found on page 253. It helps them confidently navigate and understand a text by hooking its content to all they already know. Also found on 253. So with this one, I think that this is a little bit more difficult with kindergartners just because they don't have as much prior knowledge. But with like 6th grade and even with the second graders that I've worked with, they were able to say, oh yeah, I remember whenever I read about this, or oh yeah, I remember when we did this at my house, or did this with my family. So those are some things that, and there is some prior knowledge that they can access as kindergartners, but just definitely nearly not as much. I've also found that with Belton being kind of a low-income community, that I find that there's a lot of kids that don't have a lot of those experiences. They haven't had the chance to go to museums. They haven't had the chance to go places outside of Belton and visit different things and really build some prior knowledge. So that's an unfortunate thing. Even like in the Kansas City area, there's so much that could really be helping these students learn. But a lot of the parents, maybe they don't have cars, or maybe they don't have time or the funds to go and pay for them to go to different places. So I have noticed that that's been one of those things where I've seen students that just, they just don't have as much prior knowledge as what I would think they might have. Number 3, consider text structure. According to Tversky 2011, good readers consider how a text is organized. This is found on page 254. Tversky 2011 goes on to say that taking into consideration how a text is structured gives readers a way to organize the ideas and information that they're learning. So it's found on page 254. Number 4, ask questions and wonder. This is one that kindergartners are really good at. Tversky 2011 says that unless they generate questions and wonder, it's unlikely they'll fully comprehend, enjoy, or remember much of what they read. This is found on page 254. When I watch TV shows with my wife, she is constantly asking me questions about what is coming up next. She's like, do you think that this is going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen? Having never seen the show either, I usually respond with, I don't know. I haven't seen this either. Well, let's find out. At which point she usually tells me to be quiet. My guess is that she is always asking herself questions when she is reading. Number 5, visualize to experience. Tversky 2011 says that when we visualize, we combine our life experiences with the words on a page to create an image in our mind. This was found on page 255. She goes on to say that when we are engaged in this way, it's almost as though we're watching a movie and the scenes are just flying by. This was found on page 255. Excuse me, the way my wife talks about parts of books, I know she is good at this. She sees the movie in her head as clear as day. Sometimes she will tell me all about it, and it's just like she was also telling me about a movie, very similar in how she explains things. It's pretty interesting. Number 6, summarize to determine importance. For informational text, students must determine the main idea of each passage or section. This was found on page 255. Tversky goes on to say that as good readers, this summarizing occurs with speedy automaticity, flickering thoughts, and mental pauses to confirm we still understand and are still engaged. Page 255. I really liked how Tversky said this statement. It's spot on in my opinion. I don't know. I just think that, this is something that has to happen fast. It's just as you're reading and you don't even necessarily realize you're doing it. You realize that, you're thinking and computing, and it's pretty cool what our minds are capable of doing. The summarizing of fiction text looks a little different. Tversky 2011 says that we have to consider and then reconsider often again and again what's happening and how things will end up. That's found on page 255. She goes on to say that as each chapter unfolds, new information must be integrated with the old as new. Summaries are shaped and predictions are made. This was Tversky 255. Page 255. As a reader, I myself have a difficult time reading fiction books with a lot of characters that are introduced throughout. My wife doesn't have this problem, but I even have to sometimes write out character maps to keep things straight as I read, especially if it's families, mother, father, and their kids, and then maybe aunts and uncles. If it's if it's very intricate and very detailed, lots of characters, then it's often hard for me as a reader to follow. But I guess in some ways it's good, because then I can relate with my students a little bit that might struggle with this too, and give them strategies like that. Maybe another strategy is just I've done this before too, where I had them draw out what they thought the characters looked like, and then give details about each character, just as a way to kind of keep things straight in their mind as they're reading. So then if they needed to refer back to that, they would see the character sheet with all the characters' names, and if they felt like drawing them, depending on how the author, if the author is able to give a lot of information, or as far as what they might look like, that's something they could do too. But I've noticed that is helpful. Switching gears now to Awe, in Chapter 5 of Awe's 2000 book, she checks back in with the native Hawaiian students that she mentioned in earlier chapters. Also, as I was reading this, thought, that was pretty smart of Awe, because she was able to go and spend some time in Hawaii, and probably, got paid to do it, got paid to stay there. I don't know. I was just thinking that would not be a bad place to do some research. Anyway, she discussed research conducted at the Kamahaya Elementary Education Program, also known as KEEP. This, again, was Awe, page 89. 2 approaches that proved highly effective, she said, were the writer's workshop, based on the process approach to writing, and the reader's workshop, a form of literature-based instruction, page 89. Both have been mentioned in Tversky's 2011 book as well. The Belton School District, the district where I teach, has used both across all grade levels for many years. They definitely look very different in the three grades that I have taught, but have proven helpful in teaching ELA, formerly known as language arts. One line in this chapter that I really liked and aligned myself with was when Awe said, "If you succeed in teaching them to write from the heart, you have given them something of value for the rest of their lives." Um, this was found on page 90. I try to give my students as much topic choice for this reason. I know that they will do their best writing when it is something that they are passionate about. When I taught sixth grade, I had some great persuasive papers written by my students. I just said, write about something that you're passionate about, and tell us why you're for it or against it. And I just found that, whenever I did that, when I gave them that opportunity to write about something that they really liked or really disliked, that I had a lot more success than if I said, here's your topic, and I'll write about it. So that is all I have for today, and I think it's time for me to go to bed.